Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you now. Maybe you're doing everything right, working, trying to improve, trying to grow, and yet you're not moving forward. And the question almost no one asks is this: what if the problem isn't the market? What if the problem isn't the economy? What if the problem isn't the lack of opportunity? What if the problem is the way you think? Andrew Carnegie believed something that many people ignore today. Wealth begins in the mind, and poverty does too. There is a way of thinking that keeps people stuck. And the most dangerous part is that those who think this way don't even realize it. You might be thinking like a poor person and not even notice. Thinking like a poor person isn't about how much money you have. It's about how you interpret the world. It's believing money is always scarce. It's believing that if someone wins, you lose. It's feeling envy instead of studying. It's complaining instead of adjusting. A poor mindset lives in constant comparison. A prosperous mindset lives in constant evolution. Those who think like the poor say, "I don't have opportunities." Those who think like the rich ask, "How do I create opportunities?" Those who think like the poor say, "It's hard for everyone." Those who think like the rich ask, "What is this difficulty eliminating that I can take advantage of?" Carnegie wasn't born rich. He didn't start with massive advantages, but he started with a different decision. He decided to think differently. While many looked at the Industrial Revolution and saw chaos, he saw expansion. While many saw risk, he saw positioning. While many complained about conditions, he studied the conditions. Here's something that might bother you. Thinking like a poor person is outsourcing responsibility. It's always having an excuse ready, always having someone to blame, always having an external reason. But thinking like a rich person is taking control. And control is scary, because now there are no excuses. If you are where you are, it's the result of accumulated decisions. That hurts, but it's liberating. Another trait of the poor mindset: excessive focus on the short term. Those who think like the poor want quick results, immediate rewards, money without structure. But real wealth is built slowly. Carnegie built empires with a long-term vision. He understood that what sustains wealth isn't speed, it's structure. The poor mindset asks, "How much am I making this month?" The rich mindset asks, "What am I building that will pay me for years?" The poor mindset consumes. The rich mindset invests. The poor mindset seeks status. The rich mindset seeks assets. Do you want to look rich or become structurally wealthy? Thinking like a poor person also means living in constant fear of loss, fear of investing, fear of trying, fear of failing, fear of taking risks. But here's the paradox. The fear of losing keeps you small. Carnegie took calculated risks, not reckless ones, strategic ones. He understood that absolute security doesn't exist. What exists is responsible decision-making. Another silent trap of the poor mindset: confusing effort with progress. You can work 12 hours a day and still be running in circles. Thinking like a poor person is working hard without direction. Thinking like a rich person is working with surgical focus. Carnegie spoke about concentration. Concentration on one skill. Concentration on one industry. Concentration on one strategy. Most people scatter. Few go deep. And depth creates authority. Authority creates opportunity. Opportunity creates money. Thinking like a poor person is wanting everything at once. Thinking like a rich person is choosing and mastering. Another brutal difference: the poor mindset criticizes those who grow. The rich mindset analyzes those who grow. If someone prospers, the poor thinker says, "They got lucky." The rich thinker asks, "What did they do that I can learn from?" Have you noticed how easy it is to call something luck when you want to study it? Thinking like a poor person is emotional. Thinking like a rich person is strategic. The poor mindset reacts. The rich mindset responds. The poor mindset gets offended by criticism. The rich mindset extracts improvement. Carnegie didn't become rich by being sensitive to public opinion. He became rich by being disciplined in his own decisions. And maybe here's a crucial point. Thinking like a poor person means depending on motivation. Thinking like a rich person means depending on standards. Motivation fluctuates. Standards sustain. If your standard is procrastination, your results will be average. If your standard is discipline, your results will grow. You don't get rich because you want to. You get rich because you become someone capable of sustaining wealth. Thinking like a poor person says, "When I have money, I'll change." Thinking like a rich person says, "I'll change now to generate money." Identity comes before results. If you see yourself as limited, you will act limited. If you see yourself as capable of building, you will act toward building. Carnegie believed the mind is the greatest factory of wealth, but it can also be the greatest factory of scarcity. And here's something that might change your perspective. The market doesn't pay need. It pays value. It doesn't matter how much you need money. What matters is how many problems you solve. Thinking like a poor person focuses on personal need. Thinking like a rich person focuses on solving others' problems. The bigger the problem you solve, the greater the value you generate. And the greater the value you generate, the greater your prosperity. But solving big problems requires skill. Skill requires time. And time requires consistency. The poor mindset wants reward before building. The rich mindset accepts building before reward. Maybe you're stuck not because of a lack of opportunity, but because of a repeated wrong pattern. You repeat limiting thoughts, repeat limiting environments, repeat limiting conversations, and then wonder why the results don't change. If you keep thinking exactly the way you think today, 5 years from now, will anything be different? Or will it just be the continuation of the same decisions? Thinking like a poor person is waiting for a miracle. Thinking like a rich person is building systems. A system of learning. A system of execution. A system of growth. You may not realize it, but every thought you normalize defines your destiny. When you say, "That's not for me," you are closing invisible doors. When you say, "I'll never be able to do that," you are training your mind to quit before trying. Carnegie didn't train his mind for limitation. He trained it for expansion. The question you need to ask today is not, "How do I get rich?" The question is, "Am I thinking like someone who can become wealthy?" Because while you maintain a scarcity mindset, others are cultivating a growth mindset. While you justify, others adjust. While you criticize, others execute. And when the results appear, you may call it luck, but it wasn't luck. It was mindset. And now the most honest question of all. If you continue thinking exactly the way you think today, what will your future look like? Because maybe the biggest mistake isn't a lack of money. Maybe it's thinking like a poor person and not even realizing it. And this is where most people get stuck. Because changing your thinking is harder than making money. Money you can earn once, but mindset you have to sustain every single day. And let me go even deeper. Thinking like a poor person means living in constant survival mode. It's waking up already worried. It's making decisions based on fear. It's avoiding risk because of past trauma. It's choosing small security instead of big growth. But surviving is not the same as prospering. Survival keeps you alive. Prosperity expands your life. Carnegie didn't think about surviving. He thought about dominating the industry. While many were seeking stability, he was seeking scale. And here's a brutal difference. The poor mindset asks, "How do I keep what I have?" The rich mindset asks, "How do I multiply what I have?" Multiplying requires boldness. It requires strategy. It requires vision. Thinking like a poor person also means having excessive attachment to little. You're afraid to invest because what if it runs out? Afraid to delegate because no one does it like I do. Afraid to grow because what if it fails? But attachment to smallness blocks access to greatness. Carnegie understood the power of leverage. He didn't do everything alone. He organized talent. He created systems. He multiplied strategic people. The poor mindset wants absolute control. The rich mindset builds a strong team. Another uncomfortable truth. Thinking like a poor person is spending energy proving you're right. Thinking like a rich person is spending energy getting better. Have you noticed how many people would rather win an argument than win the marketplace? Arguments don't pay bills. Ego doesn't generate revenue. Carnegie wasn't interested in looking intelligent. He was interested in building advantage. And maybe you're stuck in something invisible. The desire for validation. The poor mindset needs others' approval. The rich mindset acts even without applause. While you wait for family support, friends' approval, recognition on social media, someone else is executing in silence. And silence builds wealth. Another characteristic of the poor mindset: excessive focus on what's missing. There's no money. I don't have connections. There's no opportunity. I don't have structure. But the rich mindset asks, what do I already have that can be a starting point? Do you have internet? Do you have time? Do you have the ability to learn? Do you have the energy to start small? Carnegie started small, but he didn't start by complaining about what was missing. He started by using what he had. There is an invisible cycle that keeps people poor. Lack, complaint, inertia, stagnation. And there's another cycle that creates wealth. Clarity, action, adjustment, growth. Which cycle are you feeding daily? Thinking like a poor person means wanting emotional stability before taking action. When I feel ready, I'll start. When I feel confident, I'll launch. When I'm sure, I'll invest. But confidence comes after repetition. Security comes after experience. Clarity comes after practice. Carnegie didn't wait to feel ready. He became ready in the process. And here's something that might hurt. You're not stuck because of a lack of opportunity. You're stuck because of excess comfort. Mental comfort. The comfort of justifying. The comfort of maintaining a familiar pattern. Thinking like a poor person is choosing small comfort over uncomfortable growth. But growth requires prolonged discomfort. While you try to avoid pressure, others are using pressure as strength training. Another crucial difference. The poor mindset compares its starting point to someone else's finish line. The rich mindset compares its current version to its previous version. External comparison destroys focus. Internal comparison builds progress. Carnegie didn't compete emotionally. He competed strategically. He didn't ask, why do they have more? He asked, what did they do better? Do you want to criticize success or learn from it? Thinking like a poor person focuses on someone else's visible results. Thinking like a rich person studies the invisible process. You see the money, but you don't see the years. You see the recognition, but you don't see the sacrifices. You see the finished structure, but you don't see the earlier failures. And here's something few understand. Wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with standards. If your standard is procrastination, your future will be limited. If your standard is studying, adjusting, and repeating, your future will be expansive. The world doesn't reward intention. It rewards repeated execution. And repeated execution requires a strong mindset. Another silent trap of the poor mindset: believing money changes who you are. It doesn't. It amplifies who you already are. If you're disorganized, money amplifies chaos. If you're disciplined, money amplifies growth. That's why so many people gain and lose. Not because they didn't know how to earn, but because they never developed the mindset to sustain. Carnegie spoke about character before fortune, because character sustains wealth. Maybe the problem isn't, how do I earn more? Maybe it's, who do I need to become to sustain more? That question changes everything. Thinking like a poor person asks, how do I get rich? Thinking like a rich person asks, what kind of person does wealth require me to become? Do you want money, or the maturity to manage it? Do you want growth, or the responsibility it brings? Because prosperity isn't just privilege. It's weight. The weight of decisions. The weight of leadership. The weight of consequences. And here's the question you may be avoiding. If you made a lot of money today, would you know how to multiply it? Or would you lose it in 2 years? Your answer reveals your mindset. While you look for a magic formula, others are strengthening internal structure. While you look for shortcuts, others are building foundations, and foundations support tall buildings. Without a foundation, any wind knocks it down. Maybe you don't need more information. Maybe you need more transformation. Because thinking like a poor person isn't a lack of intelligence. It's the repetition of limiting patterns. And patterns only change with conscious decisions. So let me ask you something directly. Today, in your small decisions, are you choosing like someone who builds wealth? Or like someone who fears scarcity? Because wealth doesn't begin in the bank. It begins in the mind. And maybe you're sabotaging your own growth without even realizing it. So let's move from theory to what actually changes the game. Because up to this point, maybe you've agreed with everything. But agreement doesn't transform anyone. Transformation begins when you confront your own patterns. First practical question. What decisions are you postponing out of fear? Thinking like a poor person means delaying hard decisions. It's waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the right sign, waiting for external confirmation. But the perfect moment almost never comes. Carnegie didn't wait for a perfect scenario. He made decisions with the information available, adjusted later, and kept moving. The rich mindset decides and corrects. The poor mindset hesitates and justifies. Second practical question. Do you invest in yourself as easily as you spend on entertainment? The poor mindset spends first and invests if there's anything left. The rich mindset invests first and adjusts the rest. Courses, books, skills, networking, mentors. Those are assets. Clothes to look prosperous. A car to impress. Expenses to validate status. That's appearance. Carnegie invested obsessively in knowledge. He understood that skill generates income. And recurring income generates freedom. Third practical question. Do you measure your progress, or are you living in improvisation? Thinking like a poor person is working in the dark. Not knowing exactly how much you earn. Not knowing exactly how much you spend. Not knowing which strategy actually works. Thinking like a rich person means measuring everything. Time, results, margin, growth. What isn't measured isn't improved. Carnegie was obsessed with efficiency. He analyzed numbers. He cut waste. He improved processes. Are you building with awareness or just trying? Fourth practical question. Have you chosen something to master, or are you jumping from opportunity to opportunity? The poor mindset lives on novelty. The rich mindset lives on depth. Every week a new idea. Every month a new plan. Every year a new project. But depth requires patience, and patience is rare. Carnegie chose steel, and he went deep, and he organized, and he expanded. Have you chosen your field, or are you scattered? Fifth practical question. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, who criticize those who grow, who normalize scarcity, you are training your mind to remain small. Environment shapes mindset. Mindset shapes decisions. Decisions shape destiny. Carnegie associated with strategic people. He wasn't just looking for friendship. He was looking for expansion. Are you in an environment that challenges you, or one that comforts you? Another practical truth no one talks about. The poor mindset seeks immediate validation. The rich mindset tolerates anonymity. Can you work hard without posting it? Can you grow without announcing it? Can you evolve without applause? Because prosperity is built in the invisible. And most people quit when they don't receive quick recognition. Another difficult question. Do you accept criticism, or do you react defensively? Thinking like a poor person is protecting ego. Thinking like a rich person is protecting results. If someone points out a flaw, do you improve or get offended? Carnegie adjusted. He didn't romanticize failure. He corrected it. And here's an even deeper point. Do you think in decades or in weeks? The poor mindset lives month to month. The rich mindset lives long term. If you're playing a 10-year game, many things that seem urgent today are just distractions. But if you're playing only for the month, every problem becomes panic. Another differentiating practice. Emotional control. Do you make decisions when you're frustrated? When you're anxious? When you're afraid? The poor mindset decides emotionally. The rich mindset decides strategically. Emotion fluctuates. Strategy sustains. Carnegie faced massive crises, but he didn't react with panic. He reorganized. Maybe your problem isn't lack of ability. Maybe it's lack of emotional structure. And here's something even more direct. Are you focused on generating value or just on making money? When the focus is only money, any difficulty discourages you. When the focus is generating value, money becomes the consequence. The market pays for usefulness, not for need. Do you solve big problems, or do you just execute small tasks? The bigger the problem you solve, the greater the value you generate. And that requires continuous development. Now let me ask you a brutally honest question. If you keep doing exactly what you're doing today, will your life improve 5 years from now? Or will it remain about the same? Because prosperity is not a leap. It's an accumulated pattern. Small repeated decisions, small continuous adjustments, small consistent improvements. While you're looking for a big breakthrough, someone else is improving 1% per day. And 1% per day for years completely changes destiny. Maybe you don't need a revolution. Maybe you need silent discipline. Maybe you don't need luck. Maybe you need consistency. Maybe you don't need more opportunity. Maybe you need an adjusted mindset. So now I ask you, if no one were watching, if no one were praising, if no one were recognizing, would you still do what needs to be done? Because in that answer lies the difference between thinking like a poor person and thinking like someone who builds real wealth. Oh, now let's step into the part almost no one has the courage to face. Because the biggest block of a poor mindset isn't external. It's internal. And it begins with something silent, unconscious identity. Many people say they want to prosper. But deep down, in their subconscious, they believe wealth isn't for them. They believe money corrupts. They believe rich people exploit others. They believe prospering means selling out. They believe growing means leaving their own behind. And as long as those beliefs are hidden in your mind, you will sabotage any progress because you never sustain what you believe is wrong. Carnegie spoke about the importance of a dominant mind. He understood that belief shapes behavior. If you believe money is dangerous, you will avoid growth. If you believe success leads to rejection, you will keep yourself small to be accepted. Now let me ask you something deep. Do you want to prosper? Or do you want to continue being accepted by your current environment? Because often, growth means stepping out of the common pattern. And stepping out of the common creates social discomfort. Another invisible layer of the poor mindset. Self-sabotage driven by fear of responsibility. Money doesn't bring only comfort. It brings responsibility. More decisions. More pressure. More risk. More exposure. And maybe you're not avoiding wealth. Maybe you're avoiding the weight of it. Thinking like a poor person is seeking emotional safety. Thinking like a rich person is accepting increasing responsibility. Do you want financial freedom? It requires emotional maturity. Another psychological block. The constant need for approval. If you need everyone to agree with your decisions, you will never make big ones. Carnegie was criticized. He was questioned. He was confronted. But he didn't allow external opinions to define internal direction. If you change your strategy every time someone criticizes you, you will never build anything solid. Prosperity requires internal stability. Another truth almost no one admits. Many people are more afraid of prospering than of failing. Failure is familiar. Scarcity is familiar. Limitation is familiar. But prosperity is unknown territory. And the brain prefers what is known, even if it's bad, over what is unknown, even if it's better. You may be stuck because your mind prefers a familiar zone over the risk of expansion. Carnegie trained his mind to grow. He sought bigger environments, bigger conversations, bigger ideas, He didn't settle for what he already knew. Now think about this. How many times have you avoided an opportunity because it felt too big? How many times have you diminished yourself before even trying? That's scarcity disguised as prudence. Another deep layer. Your emotional relationship with money. If you associate money with guilt, pressure, conflict, judgment, you will unconsciously push it away. But if you associate money with freedom, impact, growth, possibility, you begin to act differently. Carnegie saw money as a tool, not as an end, a tool to expand, a tool to build legacy. The poor mindset sees money as survival. The rich mindset sees money as leverage, and that completely changes behavior. Another thing that traps the poor mindset: fixed thinking. I'm not good at this. I wasn't born to be an entrepreneur. I'm not disciplined. I don't have the right profile. But skill is developed. Discipline is trained. Profile is built. Carnegie wasn't born a magnate. He developed himself strategically. A fixed mindset limits. A growth mindset expands. Now let's go even deeper. Are you living reactively or intentionally? The poor mindset reacts to circumstances. The rich mindset creates circumstances. If the market drops, do you panic? Or do you adjust strategy? If competition appears, do you complain? Or do you improve positioning? If a crisis hits, do you freeze? Or do you identify opportunity? Carnegie prospered in challenging environments because he didn't react emotionally. He reorganized rationally. Another invisible trap: destructive comparison. You compare yourself to someone 10 years ahead and use it as an excuse to feel discouraged. But the right comparison is strategic. How can I learn? How can I adapt? How can I improve? Envy paralyzes. Inspiration moves. Now let me ask you something that could change your trajectory. If you were absolutely certain you wouldn't be judged, wouldn't be criticized, wouldn't be rejected, would you be doing something different today? If the answer is yes, then the problem was never a lack of opportunity. It was fear of exposure. Prosperity requires visibility, and visibility requires courage. Another psychological layer: misinterpreted gratitude. Many people believe wanting more is ingratitude. But desiring growth is not devaluing what you have. It's expanding what is possible. Carnegie valued what he had, but he never limited his potential out of fear of wanting too much. You can be grateful and ambitious at the same time. Now let's move to the question almost no one wants to answer. Are you comfortable in your victim narrative? Because a victim has no responsibility. And responsibility requires action. While you believe the system is against you, you give away your power. When you assume you can position yourself better, you regain control. The poor mindset clings to the story. The rich mindset builds a new story. And here is the deepest point of all. Prosperity is not an external event. It is internal evolution. You don't get rich because the world changes. You get rich because you change. If your mindset stays the same, your results will remain predictable. But if you adjust your beliefs, your environment, your standards, your discipline, your focus, the result becomes inevitable in the long run. So now I ask you with complete honesty, if you keep thinking exactly the way you think today, what will your life look like 10 years from now? And if you decide to adjust your mindset today, how far could you go? Because maybe you're not stuck due to a lack of money. Maybe you're stuck because an old version of you is still in control. And real change begins the moment you decide, I will no longer think like a poor person. I will train my mind to prosper.